2, 1. Good evening. This is the 12-12-12 meeting of the Canby Urban Renewal Agency. First item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could all remain standing this evening in memory and in support of the victims, the customers, and all of the people affected by the tragedy in Clackamas last night. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
This evening we're going to have a fairly abbreviated meeting. As you can see from the attendance of the commission this evening, it's the holiday season. There are a lot of events going on. We're going to handle the 3 action items on our agenda, and we're going to forego to a future meeting discussion of the facade rule changes, potential rule changes, and any of the other updates that we normally get, unless someone on the commission asks for something beyond the agenda items. So the next item is a citizen input and this is a citizen input on non-agenda items. So if anybody would like to address the commission on any item that's not on tonight's agenda, any of the action items, now is the opportunity. And there's no rush to the microphone, so we will move to...
Commissioner, have a report to make.
Okay.
Briefly. Just announcement, the Canby Area Transit, known as CAT, will donate all the fare box revenue and any donations collected during the Chamber's Light of the Night event, December 13th to 17th, to the Canby Adult Center's transportation program. So ride the bus and donate to the Canby Adult Center.
That's very generous. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. And the only item on the consent agenda this evening is minutes from the November 14th, 2012 URD agency special meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move we pass the consent agenda minutes of the November 14th, 2012 URD agency special meeting.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Daniels, seconded by Commissioner Hensley, to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2012 URD agency special meeting. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Next item. Greg?
Chairman Ayers, the agency has been told about some shortages in the facade improvement program because of its popularity. And in the package, you will see that we've recommended some changes from capital outlay items into the facade improvement program. And so we're asking that the agency approve those transfers.
Thank you. Greg's referring to URA 12-016, which authorizes transfer of appropriations from certain capital outlays to the facade improvement line item in the general fund budget. Discussion?
I just think it's a great idea that it's been one of the more popular programs we've had to enhance the downtown, and this causes no foul, no harm to transfer funds that aren't being used anyway into something that will be used. So I'd encourage all of the downtown folks to take a look at their outside and see if they want to spruce it up, and to remember that the first element of this is free, that you can get a free graphic design by coming in and signing up. So if there's no other discussion at this point, I'd like to go ahead and move URR 12-016, authorizing the transfer of appropriations from certain capital outlay line items to the facade improvement line item in the Urban Renewal General Fund.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is to approve URR 12-016, a resolution authorizing transfer of appropriations from certain capital outlay line items to the facade improvement line item in the Urban Renewal General Fund. For those that may not know what this is about, as Commissioner Parker mentioned, our facade improvement program has been very successful this year, and it has, and there are more applications in queue, and so we're moving $55,000 from other budget line items that were not going to be used this fiscal year and moving them into the facade improvement program, so those projects that are on the drawing boards can be finished this fiscal year. Discussion from the commission. All those in favor of the, did I mention it was moved by Parker and seconded by Daniels? Mm-hmm. Okay. All those in favor of resolution URR 12-016 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And that passes unanimously. Next item is URR 12-017, a personal services agreement regarding the architect for the library.
Thank you, Chairman Ayers. As you know, we advertised, did a qualification-based selection process for an architect for the library, and we helped, or had several applicants, 3 or 4 were interviewed, and the recommendation was that Fletcher Farr Ayotte be the architect on this project. And so before you is a personal services agreement that we would like approval tonight to keep this project moving forward.
Okay, thank you. I'll point out that I think there may have been 4 architect groups interviewed, but there was more than that, I believe. We had 7, yes. And this particular architecture firm is, and I don't know about all of the others, but they have a specialty, if you will, of libraries. And it's just as we approved an architect for the police station that had kind of a specialty, if you will, of police departments. One of the reasons we can get a better price on the design is because they are very knowledgeable and they know the suppliers, the techniques, the technology and things for that particular special use type building. And so I think it's a wise selection for our needs. So.
Greg, have we used these folks before?
Yeah, several times. In fact, they've made at least 4 presentations to the agency, and that's actually why we decided they didn't need to come tonight. Mm-hmm. They've been here several times. We've done preliminary architectural report probably 1.5 years or so ago. I don't remember the exact dates.
2 years, probably.
2 years. And they've done a recent study of the City Hall, police station, and the existing library to make sure that everything was kind of up to...
Troy Ainsworth is the one that's done these and has reported on all of the meeting. We've had him here at least 4 times.
Yeah, I think four.
Is it just 4? Seems like more.
And they've been on time and on budget?
Yes. Yep. Pendant holds their feet to the fire.
Good start.
They've done good work.
Mr. Chairman, I move we pass Resolution URR 12-017, a resolution authorizing a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Fletcher R. known as FFA Architecture to provide architectural and design services for the construction of the new library, City Hall renovation, and existing library and renovation.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve URR 12-017, a resolution authorizing a personal services agreement between the Canby Urban Renewal Agency and Fletcher Farr Ayotte, FFA, Architecture to provide architectural and design services for the construction of the new library, City Hall renovation, and existing library renovation. I'll point out, as the resolution shows, it's not just for the library, but it's for all of the civic improvements of the 3 facilities that are affected by the construction of the library. And that motion was made by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Parker. Is there discussion?
I actually have a couple questions.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how many of my questions are appropriate at this moment or further down the line, but I have questions about the project and I don't want them to not get asked. So first question I have, Greg, is court. I hear that they were temporarily moving court. I understand the court function as far as the administration is moving to the police department, but as far as the judge and actually holding court as he does here at the dais, is that a temporary move, is the way I understood it?
It will be reassessed down the road. It's not necessarily temporary. It could be permanent.
'Cause I
So
have
we haven't made the decision yet.
Okay, that's one of my questions, all right. Because I just came up because I am not seeing in any of the plans or the drawings, this keeps getting referred to as council chambers meeting room, and I'm not seeing anything about the
Court?
word court, so
No,
I'm
in fact,
just a little
that's an
concerned
announcement I
with
was going to make tonight.
it. Okay,
So,
well then I'll let you make your announcement later. I was just wanting to make sure it got asked. Also, what's the status of the property swap with Cub? Were we able to talk about that yet?
not yet. The city attorney is in contact with the Cub attorney, and nothing yet. Right now, what they're looking at is getting a title report to make sure who owns it and that type of thing. The surveyors have been, I think that they've been selected. We got 3 quotes back for surveyors who want to survey, make sure where the land is, and then go from there. So title report and survey, and then, but the city attorney and the attorney for Cup have been in contact.
And is there any potential for something going awry there that's going to affect the work of trying to make a plan for a library?
Absolutely there is, but,
That's what I figured. That's like, so how are we putting the cart before the horse here?
well, absolutely not. It's got to be done now. What do you mean cart
No, I
before the
mean,
horse?
this plan that we're trying to approve,
Oh,
or
no,
the contract tonight, is this?
No,
the
there's
first
all
cart
kinds.
before?
We're going the negotiating route first, and
Okay. Okay.
if that-
we might condemn it, is that what you're
I didn't say that.
It's going to work out.
It will work out.
There's some questions on the map,
Yeah.
and then until the survey and title report's done, that has to be resolved first,
Yeah.
and that's,
Yeah. And I've talked to the director of Cub, and he wants an agreement to come about too. I don't think they're standing in the way of anything.
Okay. Do you have any questions before I keep going? Okay. I also wanted to know, I was looking through here, the renovation of the old police department. I see there's $100,000 earmarked for that.
Yeah.
And that's probably the wrong word, but that's what I'm using now. And it says the renovation would be minor in scope, and I'm just was hoping for some kind of definition of minor in scope and why we're going to put $100,000 into a building we're knocking down.
That's a good question. We may have another plan, but the part of the scope of work of Bill Harper and that group is to look at that. Is that the place to be? Should we put that money in that building? And that is a very good question, and we may have some options where we wouldn't have to do that, where we could put some added value into other buildings that would not be knocked down, and it would be more beneficial to the city instead of putting money in there. That's a very, very good question.
And there's flexibility in this contract if we don't have him do any architectural work to do anything with that building.
Well, we're looking at it, that contract, I think, says they're done January 1st, 2015. So the scope of work within that time frame,
Okay.
we think, says, look at where the city staff's going to move during construction, whether it's there or somewhere else. So we think that's part of the contract, but we'll talk to Bill Harper and the group to make sure that that's true. But it may not be there. We may not recommend that that be the place. You're absolutely right.
Okay. And we're certain that all the city function will fit in the current library building?
Absolutely.
Oh, we can squeeze them.
Okay. I think that's all I have at the moment that's appropriate for this
Thank you,
discussion.
Tracy, I appreciate that.
okay, any other questions, comments? We do have the motion on the floor, don't we? All those in favor of adoption of URR 12-017 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Next item is URR 12-018, approving a dedication agreement for right-of-way to permit construction of Stage 7 Sequoia Parkway extension, and this has to do with the bridge over the railroad on Sequoia Parkway, extension of Sequoia Parkway.
Correct. Before you is it's a dedication agreement signed, or will be signed hopefully, by Wygant LLC and Lisa Wygant, and it will allow the extension of Sequoia Parkway to 13th and putting a bridge over the railroad. And we appreciate the negotiations, we appreciate the dedication of the property to this project, so asking for approval of that dedication.
Mr. Chair, With only a slight regret, I'm going to move this because it may mean that we don't get to see Lisa and Buzz at every one of our meetings. But I would like to move URR 12-018, approving a dedication agreement for right-of-way to permit construction of Stage 7 Sequoia Parkway Extension.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parker, seconded by Commissioner Dale, to approve URR 12-018, a resolution approving a dedication agreement for right-of-way to permit construction of Stage 7 Sequoia Parkway Extension. Discussion. The Wygants are here this evening. Was there any comment you'd like to make before we take an action? Have anything to say?
Please?
No,
Not
I just appreciate that it's moving along and progressing, and we'll have that road in next year.
Good.
People
Good.
will be moving on that road.
Well, that's something that'll benefit all of Canby.
Great.
And it's one step closer to the completion of Sequoia, so I can strike it off my bucket list.
That's right. We won't have to see those trucks back up Malino Road backwards anymore, huh?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Signage is the next issue. All right, further discussion? All those in favor of approval of URR 12-018 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. And I'd like to just point out, and I don't know if, Greg, you want to talk about this, but we mentioned it at the City Council meeting last week. We have sold the bonds to complete the city library and structures, and also to complete the Sequoia Parkway extension. And due to our good credit rating and the insurance policy we bought for, we were able to sell those bonds for an interest rate of 2.85%, 2.86, I believe.
2.846.
2.846%.
2.85 rounding.
Which is a phenomenally good rate.
Yeah.
And it also, we were able to refinance some of the other bonds, not extend the term, but just to refinance the rate. And we were able to save over $500,000 on the lower interest rate. So that's great news for the agency.
Yeah.
Okay. That concludes the resolutions and ordinances, the action items. Is there other items you want to bring before us?
Just a couple things. I did want to make a couple of announcements, mostly about meetings, et cetera. Because of the holidays, the city has a number of meetings which will be, that are canceled, and there'll be some closures. Next week's meeting of the Parks and Rec Board, City Council, and the Transit Committee have all been canceled. City offices will be closed December 24th and 25th, which are Monday and Tuesday, and January 1st, which is a Tuesday, right? Tuesday. And then another important announcement, and this is the first time you've heard it, is that effective January 2nd, Municipal Court and the City Attorney will be moving to the police facility at 1175 Northwest 3rd. And we're doing that to get the public accustomed to the court not being here in the future when we do make that transition, when we have to move out of that building, because this building is going to be the one that is torn down, so we're going to have court somewhere. And I wanted the court personnel next to where we're going to have court, and so I think the police building was a logical place. I don't know if it's temporary or not. If it works out, if it's a good move, we'll keep it that way. We're looking at the logistics of having court somewhere else. And one of the things that you have all the time, or need, is officers to bring evidence, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. To bring evidence, et cetera. And so I think it's more efficient to have court relatively close to where the police department is. So right now, that is something we'll look at, but it won't be looked at for a couple of years. So until this building is finished and the council can move into that. So it may be permanent. I'm not sure yet. There's one other item, and to kind of honor Chairman Daniels, it's an issue he brought up, and it's the sign issue in the facade improvement program. And if you wouldn't mind, Jamie's got a 2 or 3 minute presentation.
Okay.
If she could
That'd be fine.
make that a presentation.
While Jamie's coming up, I just need to say this because I don't want to forget it. Tonight is Commissioner Daniels' final meeting as an urban renewal commissioner. And Walt, who I consider the conscience and the historian of the council, his not being with us as a commissioner any longer is going to be felt by us, because he does bring a sense of perspective and history that can only be done by someone that's been here since day one. And I for one, am going to really miss Walt and his council. And
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your service to the community all these years.
Enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie?
Jamie Stickle, Main Street Manager. At the November 14th Urban Renewal Meeting, the conversation about, from the Commission to ask staff to provide recommendations for changes to the facade improvement program, which currently allows and funds signage that is attached to buildings. The program can fund up to 50% of project costs, including design, construction, and installation, up to $25,000. All project designs are reviewed by the design committee and planning staff for consistency with the city sign code, and the applicant must submit 2 to 3 bids, and it has to be approved if the lowest bid is funded. The Urban Renewal Agency can review the project and approve or deny any facade improvement application. And so concerns were raised that the investment in signage may not be long-term. Certain types of signs, such as freestanding monument signs, are not eligible now, but hold appeal because they're longer term and can be updated as businesses change, and can support multiple businesses. So staff, myself, researched the facade improvement programs throughout Oregon so that we can understand how their programs treat signage, and I have some different recommendations for you regarding the facade improvement program. So after researching the facade programs in Oregon, several cities permit signage as part of their facade program. Those cities include, but are not limited to, Tillamook, Estacada, Lake Oswego, and Molalla. Facades allow anything from repair or replacement of exterior lighting attached to a building or illuminating a sign in Sandy, Oregon, to Estacada's improving signs, to sign removal, replacement, and repair in Tillamook. Other cities allow signage as a part of their facade program, such as the Dalles, which specifies that signs need to be non-internally illuminated signs that are compatible with other buildings in their downtown. After taking a look at our facade program and the other facade programs, I recommend that the agency expands the program to support the development of blade signs, which can add a visual interest to the downtown and a unique character. They would be kind of take the place of the A-frame or the sandwich board signs, which can be a right-of-way issue, especially for ADA accessibility. And it can include funding or providing blade sign hardware, funding design assistance, and providing technical assistance. My recommendation is that the agency amend the facade improvement program to restrict signage funding to just hardware and installation, encourage the development of a blade sign program, and to add a provision for freestanding monument signs. So the first bit of information, in addition to that, I provided some pictures that show what a blade sign is. It's a sign that hangs from a building, much like you could see near the mini chef and Thai dish. It usually has an ornate piece of hardware and a sign that talks about what business is there. And so that was the first 5 pictures. And then the second one is a monument sign. The reason that would be important is because it would be held in place. It's typically a higher end type of signage, and it could be switched in and out if a business had moved to the different area. And then I've also added the facade program flyer and the facade improvement program manual.
Jamie, I've got a question on monument signs. And,
Yes.
And I know we had a kind of a brief discussion of this, and I know people have talked to you about it. I think that monument signs are an important thing when they're done, like these examples with stonework and that kind of thing. But what about 2 4x4s planted in the ground with a sign between them? Is that considered monument sign?
I'm not sure if it's considered a monument sign, but having the checks and balances of putting it through the design committee and having it come to the Urban Renewal Board would allow the Urban Renewal Agency to choose to not go with funding a sign like that. So that it's not just because somebody put in an application that we pass it, but that we can hold them to a higher standard by including that in the facade program and bringing it forward to you.
But it's the permanentness that appeals to me. That's why the stonework and that, an example, a big example would be the event center's sign, with the nice rock work and so on. I don't know, and it's, like signs that I've had in front of some businesses I've owned, where literally you put up 2 4x4s, paint them white and hang a sign between them. I don't think that's what I have in mind when I improve a facade improvement and a monument sign. And I would like to see us have some
kind of design standards.
standard or words that address the permanency. And also I know, and I think Commissioner Daniels brought this up, the actual sign itself is one that I have a little trouble, when it's a single-purpose, single-use sign.
Right.
I have a little trouble of including that in the facade improvement. If the auto dealership or whatever goes out of business, that sign can't be used anymore.
Right.
That, if it's a monument sign where you can slip in the new plastic or whatever material the sign is, then that's one thing. But where it's a single-use sign, I have some trouble with that.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, a couple years ago, I was traveling to the East Coast and coming through some communities, and it's interesting, these communities had a monument sign, and they forced McDonald's to go to a monument sign, and where it was all the monument signs I saw they were fastened to the ground, and the masonry would build up. They weren't up in the air, and there was restrictions to how high they could be. And it's interesting because a lot of these people, corporate, want to put their own sign up. No, they said if you're going to do it in this town, and so Richfield gas station was the same thing. Everybody had when put a monument sign up, had to be it was only up so far off the ground, but it had to be fastened to the ground, not just poles up and stuck up in the air. So somehow that, like you say, can be going through it to the agency but maybe somehow that could be worded into it so that would eliminate people from just putting up 4x4s and.
Right. And with the wording in the recommendation, it talks about the hardware and the installation, so you're not talking about the sign itself, but for instance, take the Bricks and Minifigs monument sign. It could be all of that hardware, but that the sign that says Bricks and Minifigs would be up to them.
But be separate, and that's I think where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
And we came to that after listening to what the agency had said, and then I also talked with Brian Brown, our planning director, and he was able to kind of help talk me through that language. And so
Okay.
that's what we thought would be a good way to encourage good-looking, attractive, higher-end signs, but that the temporary sign of if a business was going to go out of business in 1 to 2 years, not that we would want that, but that we're not funding that person's
Right.
actual sign, just the hardware.
Okay. All right. Other questions?
Another question, maybe you have it in there. Is there anything that allows us to take a sign down once a business goes out? Because I know, Gene's Electronics, and they've been after the landlord to do something there, and it's not Gene's Electronics, it hasn't been for a long time. And it's
the
not helping
awning.
the business that's in there.
Is that the awning that?
That awning type thing, yeah. And there's a sign, it's built onto the awning here. But anyway, there's something that,
We're going to get Renata up here. She has a frown on her face, so.
We'll check with Brian Brown, our planning director, on that. We did talk about what the city's role is in regulating signs, and because Oregon is such a strongly committed free speech state, we cannot regulate in any way what the content of the sign is. We can only say how big, how it is on the exterior of the building, and what materials it can be made of. And so I will check with Brian and see if we can demand that things be taken down. Since they haven't been, I imagine that we can't.
Okay, that's something we should look into, because that example is a good example of my concern of a single-purpose sign, if you will. It's a, I don't know how it's on there, but it's on part of the awning. So it's an awning, but it's a sign that can only be used by Jane's Home Electronics. It isn't going to work for the hairdresser that might move into the building or something.
You know, the timing for this conversation is perfect because we are, the planning director is bringing forward recommendations to changes to our code, and that it has been postponed before the planning commission until, I believe, early next year. So I can certainly ask him to develop some language that addresses that concern, and it will be coming to the planning commission, then be coming before you for your review.
Yeah, Rich, I see these as good questions, but what is in front of us is a subset of the sign code, as Jamie pointed out. When some business comes to us and asks us for some financial help, we have much more control over what proceeds than someone who is just going to operate within the city's ordinances. I think we do need to look at our sign code, and when Ken joins us next year, I would like a robust discussion of what we can do and what's appropriate. I've talked to some new businesses that have moved in around the Park Blocks area, and they are frustrated by what they see as language that should be updated. So that's not really a commission issue. In front of us tonight is the language of people who come and ask for our financial support, but when we change our hats to counselors, I do think a full discussion about our sign code is appropriate, because it's not just Gene's signs. We also had another First Avenue situation where we were powerless to affect. So I would like that in an open forum for us to discuss.
I appreciate that, and I can go along with that, but my concern, again, was going back to where we're expanding our program a little bit by allowing something we don't allow today, the monument signs, and then ending up with a monument that is only good for McDonald's, or, you know, I mean, the next tenant can't use it, and that's my concern, that it should be something that the new tenant or new owner can modify, and there's some permanency to the investment we made.
And that's the intent of our recommendation.
Okay.
To fund the brickwork and the masonry, but not the sign itself.
Not the sign itself. Okay, all right. Other questions, discussion? We have we have 3 recommended motion options, one of which speaks to what we've been discussing. So is there a pleasure from...
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend the facade improvement program to allow matching funds for signage, hardware, and mounting material, add monument signs as eligible projects, and develop a downtown blade sign program. I would like to add that these projects are clearly defined in the program, though, to reflect what you were talking about, the permanency.
In other words, as an element of the plan,
Yes.
Whatever is in the sign part be broken out and
Correct.
itemized.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hensley, seconded by Commissioner Daniels, to amend the facade improvement program to allow matching funds for signage, hardware, and/or mounting material, add monument signs as eligible projects, and to develop a downtown blade sign program, and then as a footnote that they be itemized in the application so that we know what the plan is for that. So,
That's a great
Like to-
point.
all those in favor, or discussion?
I'd just like to say, comment, and thanks to staff for following through on this. I think this is an excellent approach to the problem.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Thanks.
Very much. That was as close to 2 minutes as I get.
No, part of that was our fault.
Yeah.
Rich, I've got one other thing.
Okay. Commissioner Parker.
I was taking a look this week at our First Avenue project, where it's getting very close to doing its final punch list, and also took a chance to head out to our police station. And I remember talking to our city administrator a couple years ago when we embarked on this. I said, you know, this is going to be the biggest couple of projects that the city has attempted in a generation, and the potential for us to go over budget or not on time is huge. And I think a lot of the success of that was due to Dan Dretlaw. And Sue, I'd just like our minutes to reflect that I think that Dan has made a huge contribution to what will become the legacy of this council. So I appreciate his work on those two projects.
And I think we should let the agency know, Dan's position was Urban Renewal Project Manager, and we're not going to have that position after the first year. So that position has been eliminated.
He may not be here, but his legacy will be standing for many years.
And he's gone with the position, but you're absolutely right. I agree. So,
All right.
thank you.
Anything else to come before the council tonight? Any other comments? Oh, Renata,
Oh, yeah.
waving papers at us.
In respect for your time, we are not giving oral presentations, but we have
Thank you.
prepared written summaries of activities relating to Main Street and economic development for you.
Thanks. And if anybody has any questions or follow-up, I know the staff would be happy to entertain your call or question if
You're certainly,
you choose to do that.
even mine.
I would encourage everyone on the TV audience to attend the Light of the Night. I went down to the reception, and it wasn't all lit up, but what I saw was impressive.
Yeah.
To go into that dome and see that, all that, I don't know what you call it, but the lighting, it's a phenomenal.
And be sure and drop by the refreshment table Friday evening. I'll be
I looked for you
volunteering.
tonight, and you weren't
Well,
there.
come by tomorrow night and buy a apple cider donut from me.
Oh, you're doing the
from
Rotary.
7 to 10.
All right.
The donut window will be open at 4, I think, or 5, I guess, but I will be there at 7. I'll be happy to sell you a donut. All right.
Okay,
Any other items to come before us?
I
Walt,
move we adjourn.
A second.
motion to adjourn before we take a vote. Again, Walt, thanks very, very
Oh,
much for your
you're welcome.
service.
Yeah, Walt.
Appreciate it very much.
you if they have questions.
We do have an opening on our planning commission.
Actually, we could set a phone up here and you could watch on TV.
Yeah, there you
If
go.
see something, you
The
just give us a
Walt
call. The Walt call. The red phone rings. It's Walt straightening us out.
No, I appreciate it, because that was one of the projects I hope that we complete, at least was the police station moved and First Street. So
Good.
it's
Thanks.
nice. I go down there every time I have a chance.
I do too.
It's beautiful.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Good evening. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You know, that's